Hi everyone, I have just made my way through the Arrangement by Mary Balogh. This is book 2 in the Survivors Club series. We're back to the main series after the little novella break that we took, and I will be sharing a few of the interesting ideas that occurred to me while reading this book. And without much further ado, let's get started. The book follows Vincent Hunt, Viscount Darley, and Sophia's story. After the events on the Suitor, Vincent runs away from his family trying to arrange his life, goes back home and runs into Sophia. He proposes marriage to her after she was kicked on the street by her aunt and uncle for foiling their plans to have Vincent compromise their daughter and thus forcing a marriage proposal out of him. They make an arrangement. She needs a place to live and he's somewhat at fault for her condition due to his not standing up for himself. Their arrangement is a marriage for about a year, after which both they will separate and live independently. She agrees, they marry, discover one another and fall in love, conceive a child, and decide to forget about their arrangement and live as a proper married couple. There are several ideas that I found rather interesting. Vincent is blind after an accident in the war, and Mary explores his mindset in a lovely and intense way. He is effectively surrounded by darkness constantly, not only the darkness of not seeing light, but of his own guilt, the loss and grief. He's overwhelmed by the love that his family shows him, to the point of treating him with such contempt so as to attempt to decide his life for him. He despises the pity that he feels from his family. He carries guilt over the rejection he feels. It's a truly nasty feedback loop. And through him, Mary exposes that concept, living surrounded by darkness. The darkness of the world at large, the darkness of our own actions, of our own selfishness and self-pity. Interestingly, he controls this darkness with two techniques. One is breathing, and the other is truth, reminding himself that he is blind. That's it. There is no need to attribute anything other than that fact to his current situation. The other source of truth he has is Martin, his valet, with whom he has the most endearing friendship. Martin keeps him on his toes, makes fun of him, and is bluntly honest with him. He brings him back down to earth, really. That, to me, speaks of the value of a network. In one of the early scenes, Vincent feels the push of this darkness that threatens to squeeze him. And I love that he reminded himself that if he was surrounded by darkness, constant and everlasting, then his only option was to remind himself of the light within. That was fabulous. Now, Sophia is invisible. Her parents are gone, and so she has been staying with family members who treat her like something beneath the help. And she has grown accustomed to this role. She was deemed the mouse, quiet, small, ugly, and mostly unnoticeable, having her own insecurities with regards to her physical appearance, her worth, and lovability. Mary created a rather poetic setup for this story, showing how something seemingly impossible was actually the most adequate love match. A blind man who falls in love with an invisible girl. Superficially, it should not work, but yet, once the story takes shape, it could not have been any other way. Her invisibility and his blindness help them recognize the need for independence in the other, and they sought to give one another just that. But their handicap made them very observant of what lies underneath these superficial levels. He picked up clues that would otherwise not be noticed, and she had the best way to describe the world to him, as she had trained her observational skills to a great degree. She became his eyes to the world, in a sense, and he became the most trustworthy source of assurance. She described the world in great detail to him, and she was the most beautiful girl he had ever known, despite never actually having seen her. This story made me think of reassurances in a relationship, beyond romantic ones of course, and how the only way to provide that to someone is with truth. We are all insecure about so many aspects of ourselves, our physical appearance, our character, our personality, our voice, or whatever it may be. And it's really not until this truth is offered that we don't have a chance to question ourselves properly. We can live in a familiar life for a very long time, forever even. However, there's a trick. Reassurance doesn't come from simply being told what one wants to hear. In this story, Vincent didn't just tell her that she was beautiful. Vincent knew she was beautiful because of how she behaved. The thing is that she had convinced herself otherwise because of her life experiences. So, in a sense, the truth that can heal our insecurities won't come out until our behavior matches that truth, so to speak. It reminded me of how life experiences reflect our relationship with the universe. Sophie didn't just get the affection and love for being the protagonist. She worked hard to keep her promise to him, not on principle, but because she recognized how much it meant to him to be free, and how much faith he had placed on her with his lifelong generosity and kindness. And so he freely returned her efforts with exactly what she needed, a reflection of who she truly was. I think life works that way sometimes. They both shone in darkness they were surrounded by, be it by accident or choice, and needed one another to reflect this internal light upon the other. Their story doesn't have a climax at the wedding, which I liked. Their big triumph came when their silly stories were to be published in print. This was one of my favorite aspects of this story. They feed one another creatively too. She's a great illustrator and he's full of occurrences, which makes him very witty and inventive. There was another great idea at the end. When Vincent is punishing Sebastian, someone that Sophia had fallen in love with after her father died in a duel, who had then proceeded to destroy her self-image by telling her how ridiculous it was, the notion of her being in love with him. "Have you seen yourself?" he would ask. It was when Vincent realized that he had a better chance of winning their fight because he had more experiences with darkness. Their fight took place in a cellar with no lights. And that's a great thought. That's when life gives you lemons. That's a very interesting idea about making the best of what life throws at you because it's already in your hands, instead of nagging or complaining. What do we do with all that has happened to us? The things that made us cry, the pain and the suffering, the injustice and accidents, the loss of love, heartbreaks, grief, and time. What do we do with our pain and experience? What do we do with our darkness, which we most certainly have? Like the first story, do we turn our nightmares into kindness and generosity, into assertiveness and joy? Or do we adopt the darkness and seek to cause further misery in the world, starting with ourselves? Or do we cultivate our light within? Especially today, with all that is going on, that light within might be all that we have. But within that light is all of our life experiences, all we have learned, all of our intent for the world and our loved ones, all of our knowledge and values. It's just like in the movie V for Vendetta. It's an inch, and within that inch, we are free. These are the questions that this book left me with. Thank you guys for watching that. I will be moving on to the next one in the series. It's called The Escape. The Survivors Club has been very, very intense, very moving series. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.